Hey guys, Lindsay here over at Carter Vintage Exchange, and I'm really excited today because I'm seated here with the wonderful Michael Chapdelaine, who, if you haven't already heard of him, and I'm sure many of you have, but he's an award-winning classical guitarist, fingerstyle guitarist. You have tons of material online. You cover everything from Segovia to modern, beloved hits, and you teach and you compose, and you also have an ongoing partnership with one of our favorite luthiers, Mr. Kevin Muiderman, who is a wonderful luthier based in North Dakota. So you're here to talk about that, and welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so curious to hear all about how you first met Kevin and what his guitars have added to your playing experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin's amazing, and I've been playing his guitars, I think, for 20 years. And it started with, I was a classical guitarist. That's what I was. And then I kept seeing these advertisements and articles in Guitar Player magazine and acoustic guitar of these like 6 guys that were playing all over the place all the time. And it turns out they all had the same credential. It was National Fingerpicking Champion. And I thought, well, I want some of that work. I wonder where that is. So I found out where it was, and then I went and played in it.
And that's Winfield, right?
That's Winfield.
Yeah.
And so I ended up winning and started getting a lot of those gigs, which was wonderful. But on one tour, and at the time I was playing not a Muiderman, I'd never heard of him. Mm-hmm. And I was on a tour of his region. He lives in, or used to live in Wisconsin. And I was told by his brother, who I'd met at a club I was playing at in Portland, that he had a brother who made amazing guitars. And I said, oh. And the last thing I cared about was an amazing guitar, because I already had some. My guitar collecting was sort of done. And he said, oh, by the way, he puts on concerts in his town, in his house. Kevin builds big houses with a concert hall in it.
Oh my gosh.
He said, you should get in touch with him. So I did, and he booked a concert for me, and I came out. And, I was playing so much in those days. I was a little bit of a glib, sort of on-the-road kind of guy all the time. And I had to get stuff done. I had to get sleep. I had to get food. I had to get a good sound check. And so I meet this guy, Kevin Muiderman, who welcomes me to his house, and we go in there, and there's this amazing stage with a fabulous sound system. And we're talking about music, and Kevin says, I make guitars, which is the last thing the acoustic guitar soloist wants to hear from the producer and sound man of the concert he's about to play. Because the chances that I'm going to like his guitar, especially since he's a doctor, and he's a great doctor, I'm sure. I know now that he is. But I thought, nobody can get good at 2 things. And yeah, sure, I'll like to play it. He brings his guitar out, and he hands it to me, and I play like 3 notes. And I just put it down. I said, who are you? And where have you been? How can you make this? And so I played the concert. I said, can I play the concert on your guitar? He said, yeah, of course. So the next morning, and I'd stayed with him, the next morning we were saying goodbyes, and I said, I need that guitar. And he said, well, that's great. I'll build you one. I said, no, I need that guitar. He said, well, that's my guitar, because he's also a singer-songwriter and a very good guitarist. I said, well, whatever. And I got in my car and drove off for the rest of the tour. And then I think he maybe did a little homework and went on the web and saw, oh, this guy's just not a schmo that came and played my guitar because my brother knew him. Maybe I should call him up. So he called me up, and he said, look, I'm going to send you the guitar. I said, yes. He said, but only until I build your guitar, and then you have to send it back. I said, okay. I still have it. We call it Kate. I named it Kate after Kate Bush because it's got a voice like hers. It's so beautiful, and at the same time it's so unique that, yeah, it's Kate.
Is that a 00 size one? Like the future Chapdelaine model is?
That's what it, yeah, that was
okay.
That was the beginning. It wasn't the beginning, he'd made them before, but that was the first one that was associated with,
gotcha, yeah.
with me.
What are the tone woods on that one?
That one has got Indian back and sides, and it's got a cedar top.
Nice. Cool.
It's really simple.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to walk in and look at it and go, oh, but when you hear it, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. And it's so fun and easy to play. It's great.
Yeah. So yeah, what was it that really? I mean, obviously just the tone, the playability. Was there anything in particular that really drew you in that you can articulate? I know it's sometimes hard to really put that stuff into words.
It's actually pretty easy to say. It's
Good.
very flat across the entire range.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing drops out. Nothing stands out. And then if you want to make something stand out, you certainly can.
Yeah.
But you have the option because the guitar is so flat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, EQ-wise, it's flat.
Yeah.
And it's also, in terms of volume levels, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the guitar is fine.
Mm-hmm.
You play it and, okay. If you want to do something later in the mix, you can.
Yeah.
I never really need to.
Yeah. So just it's a guitar that really just does, nothing stands out about it, but that's sort of what makes it so special, is it really serves all the right purposes.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so the one that you brought with us is a different one though, right? Looks like it's a little bit bigger.
This is my second to newest one. And this one is quite amazing. I don't know what you call this size. You guys probably know.
I'm always bad with eyeballing. It looks like an OM or maybe a little bit bigger than an OM, but
It's certainly bigger than Kate,
mm-hmm.
because it hardly fits in my case.
Yeah.
But it's kind of narrow,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it comfortable to play, unlike many big guitars.
Yeah.
And it has the gift of the cutaway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really simple and really beautiful.
Yeah. It's like mahogany.
I don't know.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I don't know anything about guitars.
I feel like that's often the case with the great players. You just play them. Which do you prefer one or the other for touring or recording, or do you bring them both with you as often as you can?
There's no bringing both.
Yeah.
When you bring a guitar,
Traveling.
it might get checked.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give them 2 tries.
Right.
So I travel lately with this one's little sister.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the, he didn't name it, but he told me the story. I call it the river trestle guitar. He found some wood he lives in, not Fargo, the next place up.
Oh, he lives in North Dakota, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know the
The
town.
Grand something.
Maybe Grand Rapids.
That's in Michigan, I think. Anyway, Grand Forks.
Oh, okay.
So the Red River runs through Grand Forks, and Kevin had a discovery in the last few years, maybe it's 3 or 4 years ago now, but he got some wood that had been in the Red River for 100 or so years that used to be a trestle that was over a bridge, a railroad trestle over the Red River.
Mm-hmm.
And so that stuff was sitting in the water for 100 years or so,
Yeah.
which I guess is good for wood and sometimes.
Yeah, for guitars.
So that one turned into the top. So it's a redwood top.
Mm-hmm.
And then the back and sides he found in an old abandoned barn in his county. And he found like 100 sets of the nicest not Brazilian, it's walnut.
Yeah.
And so it's made out of that.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of little.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to play.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that we had, your namesake guitar was a walnut and redwood. I wonder if it was the same sets of wood, because it was absolutely beautiful. It's just
probably.
great sounding guitar. Very disappointed that we don't have that for you today. But well, Kevin did mention too that his build process has evolved in his time working with you, and he's introduced the composite construction side of it. So as a player, have you noticed that change, and has it affected your ability to maybe travel with the guitars more or anything like that?
Traveling is not a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, I live in Boulder, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity is frequently 25%.
Yeah.
So anywhere I take a guitar, it's going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So they always sound amazing when I leave my house. I mean, I've gotten pretty good about humidifying the house recently, but that's only because I got tired of seeing my guitars crack.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no problem traveling. The only issue is which one do I like this week?
Yeah.
Because they're all the same level. Yeah. And also, interesting thing, I don't tune the guitar normal. I tune it down a whole step.
Oh, okay.
And then frequently the basses are tuned down another major third or a major second. And I put heavy gauge strings on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why everybody doesn't do that. It's so big.
Yeah.
And it's so rich. And I also, as a classical musician, I've always felt the guitar was pitched too high
Mm-hmm.
because it puts all our melodies in a very high soprano,
Yeah.
and that's not the entire story about singing. You know, we have
Mhm.
bass all the way to soprano. So the guitars, at first I was concerned whether they'd be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But once I changed the strings to heavy gauge strings, not real heavy, like a 13 to
Yeah,
a
just
whatever.
medium gauge.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds amazing.
Mm.
In fact, this one is tuned that way,
Mm-hmm.
and the trebles are just so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, just nice and mellow, but still really powerful.
Right.
Yeah. So how many Muiderman guitars do you have?
I don't know.
You don't know? Wow, that many.
Well, I do know. I mean, I have a stack of guitars. I think there's 6 or 7 Muiderman.
Okay.
But really, it's about the only guitar that gets played.
Mm-hmm.
I have some other guitars that are really great,
Mm-hmm.
but the Muiderman is really right
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah. How do you find his guitars affect maybe what you want to play or how you write? Do you find any sort of like compatibility between the guitar and the kind of music that you decide to make, or is it kind of a separate issue for you?
You know, it's a bit like my father was a Navy fighter pilot,
Mm-hmm.
and he flew the fastest plane that they had, and it was one of the most lethal planes that they had. And it was kind of, you know, what do you like about this plane? Well, it'll do anything I want.
Yeah.
And that's the case with all my Muidermans. They don't ever break, you know,
Mhm.
when you push it too hard. And I've learned how to, I know where it would break, and I try to stay out of that kind of force.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really easy to walk to the closet and pick up a Muiderman.
Is your partnership with him sort of the only like ongoing luthier relationship that you've had like that?
I think so.
Yeah.
There was another for 30 years, a classical builder named Michael Thames,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of fell apart at some point.
Mm-hmm.
He got political,
Ah.
and I didn't.
Yeah, best to just keep it focused on music. Well, is there anything else that you'd want to share about Kevin's guitars or working with Kevin that we haven't touched on already?
God, I think when I knew we were going to do this, I thought of all kinds of really funny stories, and now I can't think of any funny stories. You know, at this point, when I see him, it's usually because I'm playing a concert in his hall, and it's you know, it gets to be kind of business. I always try and go hang out with him a bit in the shop in the morning because we're both early risers.
Mm-hmm.
And I never can stay long because that's the way it is when you're touring.
Yeah. Just moving on.
Yeah, the funniest thing was, I need this guitar. Oh, no. All right.
Did you ever get the second one, or did he end up selling that to someone else or keeping it for himself?
I don't think I got that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got another one just like it,
Mm.
except it had spruce and Brazilian,
Okay.
and that was a killer.
So thank you so much, Michael. With all of those stories and all that info in mind, I'm sure I speak for everyone in saying that we all just want to hear you play these amazing guitars a bit more. So we'll go ahead and let you do that.
Cool. you.